to a snail's pace. And it's a long roll. Oh man. That's it.
Nice.
James P. Johnson
Awesome.
in your living room. He's still alive. So it's fantastic to have these and see what musicians of that time, what they played. And this is, even better fidelity than a 78 of the time in the early days of 78s when they made acoustic recordings. But this is,
So Duke just put his hands over
Yeah.
the piano and
Yeah.
like taught him where to.
but he really slowed it down. And the early player pianos, you pumped like this, so you could go
Really slow.
really, really, really slow,
Right.
and you could just go, and then you rewind it, and you go again, and you rewind it, and I'm told at one point, Duke performed Carolina Shout for James P. Johnson. They said, here's your tune, and it's a little homage to
Cool.
James P. Johnson.
Imagine if you could like learn piano like that.
Right, yeah.
Wow.
Was this piano modified for this player piano? Or was this
Well, it started out as a Steinway, but they had a certain division that would cater to player piano roles, and so they sanctioned this. They don't do this today. Nobody, I don't think, makes player piano rolls anymore. They make little.
Have you seen the electronic ones?
Yeah, and you could cut your own so-called roll too. You can record it and play it, and with a little disc. They had like a cassette machine at one point But so this is, you know, not little. It's not a bad little piano.
Cool. Got the chimes.
Yeah, I got some chimes that I got from Columbia Studios here. Here's a. Put a dampen it like that. And what other kind of crazy stuff?
Got a harp over there.
Yeah, that's a harp. It's not working. I got to bring it to Chicago. Oh, here's an interesting with the Nighthawks. Can I move this? Yeah. We made a cylinder way back in the '80s with Pete Dilge. Yeah, we kind of just threw all this stuff here. Let's see if this is up to par. Let's get it rolling here. Some of these.
This is like the modern Nighthawks playing.
Yeah.
The Moon and You, played by Vince Giordano and his Nighthawks, electrophone record.
Lots of low fidelity.
What year is this? What year is this? Like who was in the band?
Randy Sankey,
Okay.
Andy Stein.
Right. Stuckey or before? Is Stuckey?
He might be in there.
Levinson?
No. That's Sankey. And you hear people talking in the background. We said, "Shut up."
Peter Eklund?
Peter Eklund was playing lead.
Yeah. You know Peter Eklund? Yeah.
And it goes on and on.
Yeah.
That's The Moon and You by Leroy Shield. Here's some neat little pictures. That's Henry Red Allen. He was a big disciple of Louis Armstrong, another New Orleans great trumpet man. Joe Rushton, bass saxophone. Gene Krupa, Paul Whiteman post. I've got lots of more pictures upstairs of Ellington, all signed by the guys. If you want to go up and see that.
Yeah, what do you
What's
think would
that?
be the best thing for the people to see?
Oh, an Ellington by the whole band.
Yeah.
Wow.
And we
Upstairs?
we got to go upstairs.
Okay.
This way? Or
Yeah.
You've been
Right.
have you been
Let me turn the light on for you. Here's a little post of Lewis on there when WNEW was AM was playing great music.
Wow.
Let me just
This way?
squeeze by here.
Okay.
Yeah. So here's a picture of the Ellington band with everybody's autograph.
Wow.
Jimmy Hamilton and Johnny Hodges and Sonny Greer. Rex Stewart's in there. Lots of great people. I didn't get those autographs.
No, what, did you get that on eBay or something?
No, the lady gave that to me when
Wow.
she knew that I was into this stuff.
Right. You've been given it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's a picture of the Casaloma band, and this fella played with us for many, many years.
Is that Clarence Hutchinson?
Clarence Hutchinwriter. There he is.
Here's the man.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's a young picture. Yeah.
that's a young picture of Lewis
Yeah.
here. And That's fantastic. There's Duke Ellington's
Oh yeah.
signature. Here's Louis Armstrong's signature
Oh yeah.
on this drum head. This drummer out in Las Vegas would take this around and have all the guys sign it.
Charlie Barnett.
Charlie Burnett, Charlie Hodges,
Oh wow.
Joe Jones, Adrian Rollini.
So again, someone gave that to you?
Yeah, and that's a great early picture of Louis in his Chicago days.
Wow, look, all the ones on the floor. That you
Oh yeah,
remember?
I've got cabinets full of these things. I don't have enough space in this place.
Cool.
And Earl Father Hines, one of the great, I call him the first modern piano player. He was fantastic. And moving in here, this is sort of my office, and this is where the sheet music starts, the sheet music collection. Where are we? Right here. Every piece of sheet music has its own little own envelope. So, and you take a look at this, something like this. See, this is when the music industry was really big. Here's a kind of a silly pop tune called the Midnight Waltz. You know, not that great, but you have all these different bands who would put their picture on this piece of sheet music. So it was kind of an honor as a way of publicity, because before the internet, before TV, so you got to get your name out there. And oops, this is from 1925, and it just goes on and on.
It's all the same piece of sheet music.
Yeah.
With a different band. Is it?
Different bands, yeah,
Oh, cool.
yeah. I used to be able to find those in antique shops and things like
So
that.
Some bands you've heard of and a lot of bands you never heard of.
Oh yeah, a lot of them. There were thousands and thousands of bands running around playing. People loved music. Music was so important in the early days of the 20th century. In the 30s and 40s, you had any kind of dance. You had radio. You had recording. People loved music. Here's an interesting recording I like to show people real quick. It's a 78. Where are you now? Where are you? All right. Let me get this going. A 78 here. This is a Victor recording from the early 30s. And it was scratched out on both sides like this. So it was 25 cents, you know, back in the 80s. So I said, all right, let me give it a shot. 25 cents. What have I got to lose? I have to just change the needle here. Hold on. Nothing up my sleeve. Let's listen. All right. You got that in your mind? Now, I'm going to start over again from the beginning. What's going on? And I'm going to start again. Let's see if I can luck out. Sometimes I do, sometimes I can't. That's the waltz. All right, hold on. Come on now.
Wow.
The King's horses and the King's men.
It's a ghost record.
It's got three
Different grooves.
different groups, three different songs. It's called the Puzzle Record.
Ah.
The Puzzle Record. So you never know what you're going to find. These were made.
It's like what they have now with shuffle on
Really?
iPad.
Yeah, on your
Wow.
iPad you can shuffle it.
And this turntable here, this arm, is especially made so I can play these kind of records. This is a damaged one, but this is a 16-inch transcription disc that they played on the radio. And it's basically 15 minutes worth of music, but you have to have a special arm. See how long this arm is to play this. And it was a 33. And this was used for the armed services. But a lot of the early sound films used a disc like this, 16 inches for the soundtrack. That's what the Vitaphone process was about. So, more stuff from the collection.
Cool. I love these microphones.
Yeah, we got some old funny microphones.
Yeah. Where do you get all this stuff? Do people give it to you? Do you search it out?
Well, back in the early antiquing days of my life, there was antique shops all around. It was insane. You know, picked up little symbols like this. You know, these are Baccarat symbols that Louis Armstrong had Zodi Singleton play. And then these here were Billy Gladstone cymbals. He was from Radio City, and Chick Webb used these sometimes. A lot of bands around 1927, 28 would use this handheld thing. And here's a lot of books about recordings from the 20s and 30s, whether they were dance bands, jazz bands, country music, British dance bands. I took a job at one point to be a archivist for the company that took over RCA Victor. So I had to be up on a lot of stuff, and I just love history, and I love researching all this stuff. So
I love your license plate up there.
yes, that was Art Rollini's license plate, the brother of Adrian Rollini.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it wasn't Adrian. He was
Right.
long gone by that time. So he says, "Hey, you want it?" "I don't want this." So yes. Oh, what else? More
Cool.
pictures of different bands and some more Paul Whiteman, Vertigo Fay. And then I got the archive downstairs if you want to peek
Yeah.
for that for a second.
That'd be great.
When Carol first came to see me, she said that kind of scared me, you know. And here's more records here. Believe it or not, I have to get a ladder to get these down. So it's ones I don't play all that often, needless to say. These are dance band orchestrations that I have. They're all little, you know, everything has a number. Whatever, a tune from 1936, State of My Heart. Spud Murphy, you know, and here's all the different parts that you'd give to a band. 3 trumpets, 2 trombones, 4 saxophones, and a rhythm section. And doing film work, you never know when people will ask for some of these tunes, and just to have them here makes it a lot easier.
So how many filing cabinets do we have total?
Well, between this house and the house next door, I own both houses, it's something close to 86, 87 filing cabinets. 5 drawer filing cabinets, because you get your bang for your buck that way. And the sheet music that you saw started up there, it continues down here with my little invention. I made this little invention to hold the music in place. Out of aluminum. So and it even goes into that room there. So these are arrangements that will be going to North Texas once I get them down. This is the boxes that I send. This is the 68th box. So far, like I said, I've given 13,000, which is all the arrangements from here to here is 13,000. So that was a lot of trips to the post office. Needless to say, the post office wasn't too happy with me showing up, because these boxes are like about 30 pounds each. And I'd show them up, and these little folks like, "Hey, this is too heavy," you know. I'm sorry. I gotta get rid of this stuff.
Right.
So that's that.
Awesome.
And then I got a lot of magazines over here. Let me show you this here real quick. Let me go here. Again, when the music industry was really big, you had magazines like Metronome, and they got all, different band leaders, and who was playing what instrument, what orchestrations were coming out. Oh, we used Kahn, we used Selma, had some lady bands there. Phrasing on the Tenor by Henry Wade. I think Henry Wade was with, here's something with Jimmy Dorsey. Evolution of the Guitar. It's just chock full of stuff. All what was going on in Chicago and Pittsburgh and England. God.
All before the internet.
Yes. This is how people knew what was going on and where bands were playing. Ads, for different things. Yeah. And the music business, it was great. Maybe it'll come back a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah.
Cool. Anyway, so mixed in with all kinds of other junk, another photocopy machine,
Yeah.
more dinner chimes.
Cool.
Yeah,
You scared Carol a little bit.
I did. She's like, oh, I don't know what I'm getting into here. Oh, man. Some more instruments up here. I got some tenors and a nice gold-plated alto that I found in Davenport. Has a curved soprano
Oh, cool.
that I'd love to hear sometime. Cool.
Yeah, it's a shame about those. I feel like the antique markets have just kind of dried up.
They dried up. The
So
internet,
is that because of you think eBay?
eBay, the internet, the rising rent, and I'm sorry to say this, but younger folks, for the most part, are not into antiques. If
Right.
you've got this great cup here, oh, this is a reproduction. It's only $2. I'm going to buy the reproduction. They really don't care.
Something made in China or something like that.
Yeah, or they're not into getting the original. If I can't use it or part of my industry, I don't.
So like, are there any big antique shows like kind of left?
Well, yeah, there's an antique show that happens twice a year out in New Jersey, at the Wayne Police Athletic League, and there's just thousands of collectors, and they come in with phonograph records and sheet music and old phonographs with horns on them and wind-up machines, and I go there too,
But they probably know what they have and they kind of like ask.
Nah, some guys are just ready to get rid of it, just say, with all this stuff, you can only own it for so long, and then you have to pass it on to the next people around. So we only kind of own or rent all these material things for a short life, and then you got to get it to somebody else, or else, unfortunately, it winds up in a dumpster. And I've run across a lot of people who had relatives who had this stuff, and they could not find anyone to take it, and they just tossed it out.
Right.
Whether it was music or pictures or books, not too much instruments.
There's a lot to be sentimental about.
Yeah, yeah,
Music was great, and
yeah.
culture throughout the 40s and the 50s.
Right. Sure. So we got to get young people introduced to music. That's the thing. We've got to get young people to hear Bach and Beethoven and Ellington and Armstrong and Harold Arlen, whomever, and country music. But you got to get them when they're kindergarten,
Right.
before they get their prejudices, before they say, oh, that's old music. No, it's just music. It's all. It's like bananas. They're still great. Whether you're 2 or you're 92, bananas are bananas. They're good. And I don't know. That's kind
Yeah,
of
I always remind people how my brother and I kind of first heard jazz clarinet on the Chips Ahoy TV commercial.
yeah.
And that got us kind of excited about it.
That's it. Because you were introduced to it,
Yeah.
and that's all we need. That's all we need, guys. And then I can die happy. But anyway, make that be the final note.